Well, this is it. The final stretch. If you haven't seen the previous videos, you are definitely watching these out of order. Part 1 is a good place to start. Just like before, I changed up the order of characters from worst to best from mid-game. And also, like before, I'm just gonna jump right into it. Here in the Trash Coast, we have to save Scrappy! You know that he's strong because he sounds like a claptrap wheel when he walks. We have to face our greatest challenge yet, for like the 3rd time this game. And we also have to go to Old Haven to get a claptrap or something, I don't know. Lilith was recovering from those which shall not be named. The Rack Hive fight was nothing to write home about, but I could tell that Lilith was going to do really well against the Crimson Lance. Which is good, because I happen to know they take up a large chunk of the fights after this. Old Haven in particular was just dense with these guys. Seriously, you couldn't take 2 steps without hearing, "This is your last warning, open fire!" Brick was doing fantastic here, actually. I thought he wouldn't do that well against the boss because you can't punch it. Turns out, you can. As for the Lance, he was able to fuck them up real hard. Morty was also doing well here. Most of the enemies on the Trash Coast are very easily crittable, including the boss, which went down really fast. But Mordecai did have a particularly hard time with the Lance. They were less easily crittable, and that might cause a lot of issues down the road. And Roland was also still just fucking killing it. He had by far the easiest time with both the Rack Hive and the Lance. Not really much else to say. On the next loop, we have to kill Baron Flint, not to be confused with Captain Flint from Borderlands 2. He even sits in a similar chair. Was that intentional? We have to do some more fucking vehicle combat here, but at this point in the game, it's a non-issue. We also later have to fight Commander McCloud, and push some buttons to do some stuff to the Echo Net. Look, I still wasn't paying attention to the plot at this point. All I know is that Lilith was doing well again, and I don't want to say that, because I still don't like Lilith, but she was doing better. And she was actually more fun to play, too. When I'm able to just run into the middle of battle and just start blasting, she's a ton more fun to play. And Brick was just making a full-on comeback, because he was just fucking the Lance's shit up. I know I mentioned Commander McCloud like he was a boss, but you wouldn't think that from watching Brick. But now, let's talk Morty. He wasn't doing well again. I even tried to give snipers another shot, just to make sure that it wasn't my shotgun going stale. I landed 4 direct headshots on a badass and none of them registered as a crit. Why do I even fucking own this thing? I worry for my poor Icarus as the sun draws closer. But maybe not as close as it does for Roland. Holy shit, did Roland stink it up here. And part of it is my fault. See, I found a new variation of the same legendary shotgun I already had, but it did more damage. But my dumbass didn't think to compare the accuracy of the weapons. So I didn't have the accuracy that I needed to deal with the Lance in these much more open-ended areas, and unlike, say, Brick, I was unable to gain any significant health boost to make my way closer to the enemies. This was truly Roland's biggest fault. But now, here we are. The final stretch. Yeah, remember what I said mid-game about not wanting the last part to be too short? Well, I fucked it up. This is all Firestone's fault. I thought it was going to be shorter. But I'm not gonna lie, I felt really amped for this next mission. Maybe it's just because of all the time I spent editing and the fact that I'm playing this game 4 times in a row, but this feels like a long time coming. We're here. We can see the finish line. Let's do this. Lilith was still dealing with the Lance well enough, but here, there's a bigger threat. The ancient aliens and protectors of the vault, here to stop you from tarnishing what they've spent eons defending. The Iridians. But they didn't stand a chance against high-powered electric explosives. I literally found this electric rocket launcher just before getting here, and let me tell you, electric is good against shields. And it's even better against shield-based life forms. I was really not expecting Lilith to be the one in the final stretch going down the warpath with a goddamn rocket launcher, but here we are. And I can't lie, after everything I had to deal with Lilith, this was a ton of fun. But you know what might be even better? Going up to a batch of creatures that literally have swords for hands, and just beating the ever-loving shit out of them. Yeah, Brick absolutely demolished that same warpath. He has enough spaces of time where he was able to get his punches back, mostly due to these flying enemies. When I saw a flying enemy, I'd usually put my fist away, which you have to do by opening your inventory, and pull out my assault rifle. It made quick work of them, honestly. Morty did... well, he did okay. Bloodwing was struggling as he wasn't really able to kill anything, and he also wasn't able to hit everything because there were just a lot of enemies all packed into smaller areas. And Mordecai's extra crit damage was... serviceable. It got him through. I wouldn't say he had any particular struggles, but after going through it with Lilith and Brick, it just kind of felt underwhelming. And then there was Roland. So on my way to the last area, I remembered, oh yeah, Roland has a damage buff to all guns, not just shotguns. So maybe I should do something else to deal with the lance instead. So I did. And then I found an electric assault rifle. And you remember that stuff I said about shield-based life forms before, right? Yeah, Roland did really well in the final stretch as a result. I did have to trade out the legendary shotgun for a green with more accuracy, which just... it felt wrong. But I had to do it. And I'm glad I did, too. Now, if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that there's a pretty big part that I didn't mention. I wanted to wait a bit to bring it up. The Destroyer. This is it. The final boss. How did everyone do? Well, all things considered, they all did equally well, I'd say, with one exception. Roland. He dealt with the Destroyer way faster than everyone else. He was killing the boss so fast that it started to overlap phases. He was spawning new tentacles before I'd finished destroying his last set of tentacles. And I really do think this has to do with my decision to switch out the shotguns, so I don't regret doing it. Goodbye, Auto Shotgun. You will be remembered. But the final boss is not the determining factor. I had such a hard time picking an order for the ranking here. I think everyone actually did really well. They were all overpowered in their own special way, so picking who was the most overpowered was a bit of a toughie for me. But I'm not going to cop out now. So, here, from worst to best, is the final ranking. On the bottom was... Mordecai. I really feel bad for putting him here again. He was doing so well, too. Really, it was just the lack of damage that was hurting him. Blood just wasn't as good as I wish he could have been. And Morty's own skills weren't helpful, as the crit damage just didn't feel like enough, even if he did manage to land the crits at all. Once again, I think he did fine. He was even fun to play most of the time, but I just can't put him above the rest. Above that was... Roland. This was so hard for me. He started so well, and he killed the Destroyer better than everyone. But for the bulk of this part of the game, he was just taking loads of damage before he could even get close to the enemy. Once again, this is mostly my fault because of his weapon, but there is more to the story than that. See, I was improving his survivability by going for health-based skills in the right tree. If I'd spent the time to take a closer look at the skills, I might have realized that the health benefits aren't actually all that great. I should have gone down the middle tree to increase his shield and give him the ability to regen his shield when he kills an enemy. But by the time I noticed, it was too late. Second best was... Lilith. Yeah, once you take the whole killing yourself part out of the equation, Lilith is actually quite powerful. And it was further helped by the fact that she was starting to get new equipment, i.e. electric rocket launcher. But even outside of that, her ability to get close to the enemy without taking substantial damage made a world of difference in these later parts of the game. She was also just starting to get straight up damage buffs here, and you really can't go wrong with that. But none of them could hold a candle to the orange tier walking legendary weapon, the Slab King himself, Brick. What's that? An ancient alien race that invented their own form of advanced warfare? Get the fuck out of here. A heavily funded armed militia hell-bent on stopping anyone from getting to the vault? Fucking take it, motherfucker. A literally immortal eldritch horror brought to this plane by a team of greedy conspirators? Take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Nothing could stop this man. He now had 999 goddamn health and his right hand. Fuck the left one, I don't need it. Brick was doing absolutely fantastic from beginning to end. Well, beginning to end of the end. But no, really, nothing could actually stop him. The way the game is set up, he has plenty of time to regain his skill between combat encounters, and it lasts almost the entire encounter every time. On top of that, if he was able to land a crit with his fist on a lance guy, they'd often go down in one shot. I don't think he dealt with the Destroyer better than anyone else, but that was literally the one thing he didn't do slightly better. Even the turrets, the fucking turrets, didn't stand a chance against him here. But above everything else, you know what? Punching things is fun. But if I stop being so hyperbolic for a second, I do want to reiterate that everyone was actually really balanced here. If you want my recommendation for which one to play for newcomers, I'd suggest Roland, but everyone is totally viable. I know that this wasn't exactly an ordeal to make. I mean, this game's not really that hard, but this really felt like a big triumph for me. Of course, there is more. There's post-game content, such as DLCs and even New Game Plus, but I think I'm gonna put Borderlands 1 to bed for now. Maybe I'll come back to those. I might even try something else before hopping onto Borderlands 2, but then again, maybe not. I actually mostly did this because I wanted to play Borderlands 2. So, we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, and before I forget, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. All that stuff I said about this being my subjective opinion and all that, remember that? Well, that was false. Look at me. I'm a guy on the internet using a cartoon robot girl version of myself as an avatar. I am clearly always right about everything objectively, and if you disagree, you're wrong. And with that, thanks for watching.